Welcome to the third webinar in our secondary writing series, The Power of Writing. This series will take us a little further along in the writing process and deal with various types of writing, as well as share some 21st literacy skills and digital resources. This webinar will not only focus on the types of writing, but also products that might be associated with them. There are three types of writing that the standards focus on. They are argument or opinion, informative explanatory, more commonly referred to as expository, and narrative. According to the chart on the slide, the three types of writing are pretty equally distributed for elementary, but it is important to see the transition of writing types from middle and high school. Let's look at the change from elementary to middle school. Notice with the middle school, narrative decreases, informative explanatory stays the same, and argument and opinion increases. As students mature, they are better able to developmentally make rational arguments. However, remember that middle school students definitely have different levels of maturity, so scaffolding may be necessary in many cases. Look at the changes as students move to high school. Narrative writing goes down to 20%, and both expository and argument increase to 40% for high school students. Let's take a deeper dive into these three types of writing. Sometimes argumentative writing is called persuasive writing. However, there are differences. Kenevi and Warner tell us that in persuasive essay, you can select the most favorable evidence, appeal to emotions, and use style to persuade your readers. Your single purpose is to be convincing. The same might be said of propaganda and advertising. Argument, on the other hand, is mainly about logical appeals and involves claims, evidence, warrants, backing, and rebuttals. Argument is at the heart of critical thinking and academic discourse. It is the kind of writing students need to know for success in college and in life. Argumentative writing sets out to prove a point and to convince a targeted audience of the viewpoint on a particular issue. Argumentative writing presents ideas that follow in a logical progression with evidence to support the point. Many times you see argumentative writing supported by claim, evidence, and reasoning charts. The most common forms of argumentative text include book or movie reviews, essays, editorials, letters to the editor, opinion articles, feature articles, interviews, and speeches. Many secondary students love to argue, but need to be taught the importance of backing up their claims with evidence and critical reasoning. Argumentative writing requires students to look at both sides of the argument. Learning environments can be used to increase student engagement. Think of your classroom. Does it encourage collaborative spaces? Does it have a space for students to create individually? Here are some strategies that you might use as students prepare for argumentative writing. The first is called philosophical chairs. A statement that has two possible responses, agree or disagree, is read out loud. Depending on whether a student agrees or disagrees with this statement, they will move to one side of the room or the other. From that spot, students can take turns defending their positions. There is a variation, though. Often a philosophical chairs debate will be based around a text or group of text students have read ahead of time. Students are required to cite textual evidence to support their claims and usually hold the text in their hands during the discussion. Some teachers set up one hot seat to represent each side, and students must take turns in the seat. In less formal variations, which require less prep, a teacher may simply read provocative statements students are likely to disagree on, and a debate can occur spontaneously without a text to refer. Teachers may also opt to offer a continuum of choices, ranging from strongly agree on one side of the room all the way to strongly disagree on the other, and have students place themselves along that continuum based on the strength of their convictions. Another strategy for engaging students is the pinwheel discussion. Students are divided into 4 groups. 3 of these groups are assigned to represent specific points of view. Members of the 4th group are designated as provocateurs, tasked with making sure the discussion keeps going and stays challenging. One person from each group, the speaker, sits in a desk facing speakers from the other groups, so they form a square in the center of the room. Behind each speaker, the remaining group members are seated, 2 right behind the speaker, then 3 behind them, and so on, forming a kind of triangle. From above, this would look like a pinwheel. The 4 speakers introduce and discuss questions they prepared ahead of time. This preparation is done with their groups, and after some time passes, new students rotate from seats behind the speaker into the center seats and continue the conversation. And a third type of activity to engage students is the Socratic seminar. Students prepare by reading a text or group of text, and they write some higher order discussion questions about the text. On seminar day, students sit in a circle and an introductory open-ended question is posed by the teacher or student discussion leader. From there, students continue the conversation, prompting one another to support their claims with textual evidence. There is no particular order to show how students speak, but they are encouraged to respectfully share the floor with others. Discussion is meant to happen naturally, and students do not need to raise their hands to speak. This overview of Socratic seminar comes from the website Facing History and Ourselves, and that website provides a list of appropriate questions, plus more information about how to prepare for this seminar. There is a variation to Socratic seminar. If students are beginners, the teacher may write the discussion questions, or the question creation can be a joint effort. For larger classes, teachers may need to set up seminars in more of a fishbowl-like arrangement, dividing students into one inner circle that will participate in the discussion and one outer circle that silently observes, takes notes, and may eventually trade places with those in the inner circle, sometimes all at once and sometimes by tapping in as the urge strikes them. So now let's turn our attention to information or explanatory writing, also referred to as expository writing. Nonfiction writing is all around us in newspapers, magazines, directions, street signs, recipes, letters, maps, and menus. To be successful in school and in our out-of-school lives, we need to learn about nonfiction types of writing so we can read and write them with confidence. It is important to note that informational texts make up the majority of text written and read by adults, yet students aren't often taught explicit strategies for reading or writing these text types. The intention of informational writing is to explain, describe, or inform. It does not represent an argument. Writers should consider all aspects of an issue without taking a side or setting out to prove a point. Common forms of informational text are short stories, feature articles, nonfiction picture books, interviews, how-to books, recipes, book or movie reviews, science reports, newspaper articles, biographies or autobiographies, and memoirs. Informational texts serve to increase the reader's knowledge, to help the reader better understand a procedure or process, or to increase the reader's comprehension of a concept. Research and data gathering need to be at the very center of informational writing. Informational text offers the potential for increased engagement of students. Nonfiction texts add another dimension of reading material tied to the personal interest of students. This can be especially appealing for students whose life experiences are not like the lives of fictional characters portrayed in traditional literature. Informational text provides opportunities to extend the range of topics students write about in the classroom. And informative writing requires students to research and include information they do not already know. So students should plan. P, pay attention. Pay attention to the writing assignment by identifying what you are asked to write about and how you should develop your essay. L, list your main ideas after gathering and evaluating ideas. A, add supporting ideas, details, examples, elaborations, evidence to each main idea. Consider whether each main idea is still relevant. And N, number the order in which you will present your ideas. Students need to plan. Informational text has many unique features. These features are designed to support readers in navigating through resources and provide reader-friendly access to content. When readers know these nonfiction features appear in informational passages, they can approach their topics with added confidence and purpose. Students need to carefully note which features occur most often, what these features tell the reader, and which features help them most as a reader, and then consciously use these features in their writing. Text features help identify the big ideas and topics in student writing. Titles and headlines, subheading and bold words, captions and labels, arrows and bullets, text boxes, tables of content, glossaries, and indexes. All of these features support the information the writer presents in the text. To communicate information graphically, writers can use photographs or illustrations, charts, graphs, and tables and flowcharts. These text features not only help readers understand text, but they add visual appeal. So now let's move our thoughts to the third type of writing, narrative writing. Narrative writing is reduced quite a bit from elementary to middle to high school, but it is still a requirement. Narrative writing must tell a story. Generally, when writing a narrative, paragraphs usually relate events in the order in which they occurred. Your topic sentence should identify the situation or event and prepare the reader for a story. An effective narrative is more than just a chronological run through of the things that happen to you in a typical day. It should contain some element of drama and tension. Common techniques relevant to style or the language chosen to tell a story include metaphors, similes, personification, imagery, hyperbole, and alliteration. Common techniques relevant to plot, which is the sequence of events that make up a narrative, include backstory, flashback, flash forward, and foreshadowing. Sensory details are used as means of getting the reader more involved in the actual story. Narrative text might include story summaries, timeline of major events in a student's lives, personal experience, comic strip, diary or journal, story dialogue, oral storytelling, tell a story about a picture, retell a story read, create a play, and biographies and autobiographies. So as we have looked at the three different types of standards-based writing, let's look at how 21st century skills impact instruction. In 2013, NCTE, the National Council of Teachers of English, updated their position statement on the 21st century definition of literacies. It is as follows. Literacy has always been a collection of cultural and communicative practices shared among members of particular groups. As society and technology change, so does literacy. Because technology has increased the intensity and complexity of literate environments, the 21st century demands that a literate person possess a wide range of abilities and competencies, many literacies. These literacies are multiple, dynamic, and malleable. As in the past, they are linked with particular histories, life possibilities, and social trajectories of individuals and groups. Active, successful participants in this 21st century global society must be able to develop proficiency and fluency with the tools of technology, build intentional cross-cultural connections and relationships with others so to pose and solve problems collaboratively and strengthen independent thought, design and share information for global communities to meet a variety of purposes, manage, analyze, and synthesize multiple streams of simultaneous information, create, critique, analyze, and evaluate multimedia text, and attend to the ethical responsibilities required by these complex environments. Knowing these 21st century literacies makes style, word choice, and audience awareness more important than ever for writers. We live in a world of instant information in the viral video. How you write, who you write for, may become more important than ever in these complex environments and global communities. Let's start thinking about style. A writer's style is what makes the writing unique. Style is the way writing fits the specific context, purpose, or audience. Word choice, sentence fluency, and the writer's voice all contribute to the style of a piece of writing. Writers should choose words that communicate emotions to the reader. Match style to their writing purpose and audience. Experiment. Expose the individual behind the words. Voice is the distinctive identity a writer reveals. Voice comes through in the writer's particular writing style. Style is the result of the decisions a writer makes, such as word choice, use of figurative language, and sentence structure. Style is established by word choice, sentence fluency, and voice. Good writers are concise and precise, removing unnecessary words and choosing the exact word to convey meaning. Precise words, active verbs, concrete nouns, specific adjectives help the reader visualize the writing. Good writers let their nouns and verbs do the work. Good writers also choose words that contribute to the flow of a sentence. Sentence fluency is the flow and rhythm of phrases and sentences. Good writers use a variety of sentences with different lengths and rhythms to achieve different effects. They also use parallel structures within sentences and paragraphs to reflect parallel ideas. Good writers also arrange their ideas within a sentence for greatest effect. Because voice is difficult to measure, it is often left out of scoring formulas for writing tests. Yet voice is an essential element of style that reveals the writer's personality. Good writers establish and maintain a style appropriate to purpose. They demonstrate a strong sense of audience and exhibit an original point of view. Style is not a matter of right and wrong, but of what is appropriate for a particular setting and audience. Often students are given writing assignments. These tasks can range from the most informal journal entries to more formal essays and research papers. Each different task again requires that the writer determine purpose, form, type of development, pattern of organization, and style. Whatever the task, clarify your main reasons for writing. While you will often have more than one purpose in writing, you will also find that there is a primary purpose behind the task. Audience always depends on your purpose for writing. Ask yourself, for whom am I writing? Know your reader. This allows you to adapt writing to your audience, which makes your writing relevant. The most effective writing takes into account the nature of the audience that the writer is addressing. When you are deciding on the audience before you begin writing, you should try to think of specific characteristics. Use the following questions to help you identify your audience and what you can do to address their wants and needs. Who is your audience? What is most important to your audience? What do you have to say that might surprise your audience? And what impression do you want your writing to leave? Time to write is important. It is often a struggle in secondary classes because of time constraints, but students will only get better at writing by writing. They should be expected to try out what they have learned in the day's focus lesson. Of course, writing time is not exclusively about putting pen to paper. During this time, a student may write for a while, complete some research, confer with a writing partner, or read a piece of writing aloud to himself or another student. Writing immerses students in all of the language arts: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Through conversations before, during, and after writing, students clarify their own thinking, rehearse, revise their writing, and collect ideas from others, including the teacher. Students benefit from the collaboration and utilizing the writing process and strategies. As we think about collaboration, 21st century literacies, and even style, digital spaces that provide group editing capabilities are everywhere. As the world gets more global and effective, quick communication and collaboration become the norm. Here are just a few that you can use: Dropbox.com, Google Docs, Wikispaces, Figment.com. There are many, and I encourage you to visit with other teachers to see what they've found success with and how they are using it effectively, as well as the pitfalls. We are going to look at Figment.com a little more in depth. Figment is not only an online space for young authors to submit their writing and discuss their favorite works, but much more. Teachers and students create free accounts, and teachers can then add members to a private group. Students can create and revise writings in the safe space of a private group, sharing their works in progress, as well as commenting and reviewing only with other members and their teacher. Teachers can post and update assignments, share links to relevant materials around the web, and monitor student writing. Using the group discussion tool, students and teachers can have class discussions, ask questions, and share outside resources. Once complete, students can publish their writings to the entire Figment community, therein taking advantage of one of the largest authentic audiences for student writing on the web. Figment groups are known as virtual writers' workshops, extensions of the traditional classroom where teachers, librarians, and other educators can work with students on all phases of the writing and reading processes. Figment itself is a huge community of young, devoted readers and writers. However, they do support closed communities within the site where students and teachers can work with their classes on the craft of the process of writing in a safe space before the student publishes their piece. Teachers are using these online groups to continue conversations about assigned reading outside of class using the group's discussion feature. To post writing prompts that students then respond to by sharing books to the group. Students then workshop the pieces by providing comments and suggestions on classmates' writing. To post assignments, offer writing models, and share outside resources. To teach specific elements of the writing process. For example, through the discussion feature, the teacher models a thesis statement and then students craft their own, offering feedback and refining as they go. And to create collaborative writing and class projects. But who can see what is published on Figment? When students write a piece on Figment, they can save it as a draft and then share that draft just with their class group. This means that only the other members of the group can read and comment on it. If students ultimately choose to share it with the entire Figment community, they simply push the Publish Now button and the piece becomes visible to an audience of tens of thousands. It can still be revised, edited, or removed even after it's been published. So again, there are many tools to help your students become engaged in writing. The key is finding one, such as maybe Figment, that supports your classroom and student needs. This webinar provided information that applies to how teachers can help students prepare for specific types of writing, as well as some technology capabilities. Our next webinar will deal with editing, revising, and feedback that we briefly touched on here with the discussion on Figment. Some food for thought as you reflect on this and the previous webinars. Are you beginning to see how the pieces of the writing process are recursive and reciprocal? Are your students beginning to see writing as a work in progress instead of a one-hit wonder? What can you implement to help collaboration both in your learning environment and digitally? Keep watching and you'll see even more how the pieces come together to help students become better writers.